Oklahoma children exposed to drugs from a very young age.
These homes that in many cases are absolutely deplorable because of the use and abuse of the drugs that are going on in that house.
Some kids are left at home with no food. Many rely on their school meals to keep their bellies full.
I never felt called to do anything in my entire life until this happened, and the only way I can explain it is I just had this intense desire. Like, I knew I was meant to do this.
So who's stepping in to help?
To be able to provide that to somebody is like one of the most amazing things I think that I've ever experienced.
And what's being done to break the cycle and change Oklahoma's future?
Welcome back to our second half hour of Chronicle. We're looking at issues affecting thousands of Oklahoma children. Many of them, some just weeks old, exposed to drugs. Kids forced to grow up in an unsafe home. We look at the impact of addiction on Oklahoma's children.
Let's start with the statistics during drug busts. Young children are living in the home 72% of the time, according to the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics.
These homes that in many cases are absolutely deplorable because of the use and abuse of the drugs that are going on in that house.
OBN spokesperson Mark Woodward says in some cases, children are left in charge.
They've left their 9-year-old in charge of the 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 13-month-old baby with no edible food, running water, or electricity, because if the mother had any money at all, she spent it on her addiction.
A powerful addiction destroying lives.
They're frightened, very, very frightened.
It's a growing problem, he says, impacting people from the worst neighborhoods to the most affluent. So what happens to the children taken from drug houses? Woodward says law enforcement works with judges and social service providers to find a safe place.
And then they're reunited with the family, but making sure that those parents are ready to be parents again.
And I'm joined now by Mark Woodward with the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs to continue this conversation. Mark, thank you for being here.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
You know, the statistics really are heartbreaking. What are the biggest concerns for children living in drug homes? I can imagine abuse and neglect are up there.
Certainly, you've got abuse and neglect, and then you've got simply kids left unattended and left to fend for themselves many times when there may be no father in the home. We've been in many homes where the children say that their mother hasn't been home in days, and you've got a 9-year-old who's left to raise the 7-year-old and the 5-year-old and 13-month-old baby. In many cases in homes that have no electricity or running water, because any money and income that came into that house went to support the adult's addiction. And so a lot of these kids are left literally unsupervised, and we've seen some tragic outcomes as a result of kids in a home with no adult supervision.
And you talked about deplorable conditions. Can you elaborate a little bit on, what are your drug agents seeing when they're going to these homes where kids are living in drug houses?
Right, and keep in mind that's quite frequently. We've seen as many as 72% of the homes that we serve active warrants in, there's kids under the age of 12 living inside, and oftentimes these homes don't have any running water or electricity. There's no food in many cases. Oftentimes you've got guns inside these homes. Oftentimes they're cooking or have drugs laid out on the coffee tables and just right there within arm's reach of small children inside these homes. And many of these kids have ended up in the hospital from ingesting drugs that are in the home. Certainly when at the height of our meth labs in Oklahoma, many of these kids were being exposed to those chemicals and had lung irritation and other types of very severe injuries as a result of breathing chemicals that would be airborne inside these homes.
So the kids are exposed in some cases to the drugs themselves.
Right.
What kind of drugs are you seeing here in Oklahoma?
Well, I think our number one is methamphetamine, and we're thankful that meth labs are down, and we've seen a sharp decline going back to around 2004, 2005. But meth use continues to be an epidemic in Oklahoma. It has not only never gone away, but meth use has continued to soar every single year. And when these meth addicts are using the drug, it is very difficult for them to stay focused on taking care of their kids. Their first priority is their addiction and focusing on getting the drug, feeding that craving. And oftentimes they get tunnel vision. They forget about the kids in the house, the needs of the kids, both physical and emotional. And so meth is just continuing to cause some of the biggest problems inside these homes. But we certainly have those who are addicted to prescription painkillers, and we see a lot of neglect just because that drug takes over their life and they're not able to take care of their kids. Cocaine, heroin, certainly there's a variety of drugs, and oftentimes multiple drugs inside a home.
And we talked about the immediate impact, like abuse and neglect, and,
right.
and the emotional toll that it's taking on children.
Right.
But what about the long-lasting
lasting impact as well, maybe on education or even going into adulthood.
Right. Certainly a lot of these kids are not going to school in many cases because there is no adult to take them there, to even do the simple things like the paperwork to get them enrolled and get them back into the schools, to take care of their educational needs when they're at home, and even if they are going to school, to work with them on their homework and things like that, to have basic food in the house so that these kids can thrive and focus on education. And then, you know, you've got sometimes guns inside these homes. A lot of kids see this type of behavior as normal, so oftentimes when they grow up, you see them getting on the same drug path and getting in with the same violent crowd, and then we're arresting second and third generations because what I might see as deplorable living conditions, these children may see as a normal behavior because they don't know any better. This is all they have grown up around. And so we do certainly see long-term effects, including kids repeating the behavior of the adults.
So how do you stop that cycle to keep kids from having their life go in the same direction that their parents have gone?
Right. Well, and we've got some amazing programs through the state and also private organizations that do work with people in addiction to try to get them off this path, get them life skills, ultimately work to get their kids back after they've been either incarcerated or in treatment, and also making sure that these kids are taken care of. And we've overseen the Oklahoma Drug Endangered Children program for almost 2 decades now, and it's a procedure where when we get kids inside a home while we're serving warrants, instead of calling the neighbor or a grandmother to come take these kids, we've got DHS on standby. And so if there's kids, we get them to DHS and we work with them, frequently keeping up on those cases so that ultimately at some point we can reunite those kids with those parents. But we've got to make sure that those parents are ready to be parents and they've dealt with the treatment side of it. Because otherwise, if they're put back in the home too early, oftentimes we've seen tragic consequences where the kids, there were very negative outcomes because we didn't follow up on those kids after we left the house.
How long can the process take to rehabilitate the parents? Because I would imagine the ultimate goal is to reunite the children with their parents.
It is, and so much of it depends on the addiction of the adults, the parents that we're trying to reunite with those kids. A lot of it depends on the children themselves. Are the children emotionally and physically ready to be reunited? That can be a very difficult process. You can't just throw the kids back in the house if they've been in abusive homes and homes that have literally terrified some of these kids. And so it can be a lengthy process. Sometimes it can take a couple of years. But ultimately that is the goal of the Drug Endangered Children program, to work with DHS and our social service providers, judges and prosecutors to get these kids out of that dangerous house, but ultimately make sure that the parents as well as the children are on a path to be reunited at some point. That's the ultimate goal.
So there are a lot of people working together throughout this process. What more can be done here in Oklahoma, and what can we do as well as neighbors?
Right, and we really stress to people, they come from all walks of life, and you may think you live in a perfect neighborhood, but oftentimes it's those nice neighborhoods where you see some of these drug casualties happening. You see them in difficult, economically depressed neighborhoods. People need help. They need a place to turn, and we encourage people, watch your neighbors, keep tabs on them, look at your loved ones, see if there's changes in behavior, and know that there's help out there, whether it's a neighbor in trouble or a loved one in trouble. Contacting the State Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services, getting in touch with some of the nonprofits that are out there to not only help the addicts, but also help the families of addicts, because there is help out there.
So it's important that we all do our part and keep a watchful eye out. Mark Woodward, thank you so much for your time and your insight as well. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And you know, we really are committed to helping those in need. We have resources, a list of them right now on our KOCO mobile app. If you'd like to check them out, just look under the Project Community tab.
There is good news in some aspects. The well-being of kids in Oklahoma is getting better. The latest report from the Annie E. Casey Foundation shows our state improved economic, health, education, and social factors for children. But we're still in the bottom 20% of the rankings. We were 44th a year ago. Now we're 42nd. The report showed fewer kids are in poverty and more have health insurance. Here in Oklahoma, it's estimated that 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 5 boys will be abused in some way before they turn 18. The Care Center in Oklahoma City helps kids find their voice. One of the biggest issues, lack of education.
People think they understand or know what to look for with child abuse and neglect, and quite frankly, 90% of the time, most families have no idea what to look for. So it's really education. It's an education attention focus, getting parents, caregivers involved and getting children involved in the process of understanding what is okay and what is not okay.
Care Center has been serving Oklahoma County for 27 years. In Oklahoma, everyone who suspects child abuse or neglect is required to report it promptly to DHS. Failure to report child abuse is a misdemeanor. Now to a pretty cool opportunity for local children living in underserved communities. Freedom School OKC is a nonprofit literacy program. It runs 6 weeks every summer. 80 kids from 1st to 5th grade are chosen to be a part of it at no cost to their families. They're taught by college interns with certified teachers supervising. Districts and groups across the state made sure every child had food this summer, and many kids rely on school breakfast and lunch to keep their bellies full. And when school is out for the summer, thousands of them don't know where their next meal is coming from.
I think that we know that the reality of it is there, and it is sad, but we try to look at the positive of it and say, what can we do to reach as many students as we can, to get the word out to our parents, to our students, to know where those feeding sites is. And so we really try to make sure that we're marketing that and getting it out there, because we do know that that's the reality of what is going on, and it is sad. But I look at it, we're so blessed to get the opportunity to feed kids. Not everybody gets to do that. And we know that kids can't learn if they have hungry bellies or empty tummies, and we know that that's the fuel to make them learn, and we get the opportunity to do that.
In Oklahoma City, their goal was to feed every student regardless of where the children attend school. Coming in town all the way from Washington, D.C. to see how Oklahoma feeds hungry children. The Special Nutritions Programs Director was in the Metro this summer. Eddie Longoria was here because he heard great things about our Summer Meals program. The program here in Oklahoma City serves about 80 kids.
Summer food service program and Seamless Summer program are extremely important because obviously, as I said earlier, kids during the summertime don't have access to food that they would normally have during the school year.
If you're looking for one of the programs, head to the As Seen On section of your KOCO app. The Children's Hospital at OU Med had their own summer feeding program. KOCO Zach Rael tells us how the hospital got the funding.
Many children rely on the meals they get at school to stay fed. Some kids are left with limited food options.
During this time when they're out of school and they may not have access to a healthy meal.
That's why the Children's Hospital in OKC is participating in the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Summer Food Services program. It provides any child 18 and under a healthy and nutritious lunch Monday through Friday, and it's all for free.
It's a healthy meal. It also tastes good.
This is the second year the Children's Hospital has participated in the program. Last year, they served over 2,400 kids. The menu includes lots of veggies and fruit, chicken and fish.
I truly believe that food is medicine, and by providing a healthy and delicious meal, helps us to, keeps the kids out of the hospital as well.
Zach Rael, KOCO 5 News.
A simple act of kindness turns into something much bigger.
I never felt called to do anything in my entire life until this happened, and the only way I can explain it is I just had this intense desire. I knew I was meant to do this.
We introduce you to a woman who helped feed a few homeless people in OKC and how it's blossomed into something she never thought was possible.